can take it, all about you. And if you can play it, it's all about me. Who's gonna make it?
All about the game, and people are getting pumped up for sure. Tonight's hockey game, the WHL Eastern Conference Final, Game 7, Saskatoon Blades, Moose Jaw Warriors. This series has gone back and forth. It's gone into overtimes almost every game. 5 out of 6 games. It's been some of the best hockey, and people are pumped up. Unasked for texts on the text line. People just need to get it out, how excited they are about the playoff game tonight, 7 o'clock, SaskTel Center in Saskatoon. It's going to be a packed house. There will be busloads of people from Moose Jaw and Warrior fans there as well. So it won't be all Blades in terms of the cheering sections. Whether or not the outcome is affected by the fans, I guess we'll see. Puck drop tonight, 7 o'clock. Going to be a great game. Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've been looking forward to it since we booked it. I've got a couple of guests that are in studio talking about a Saskatchewan-based television show that's been picked up for national syndication. Go Nitro. Maybe you've seen this. It has attracted guests from major sport organizations like Canada's Olympic team, the CFL, and NASCAR, and puts athletes to the test by challenging them to master a new sport. Joining me in studio this morning is Cory Carlick, Skycron CEO and Chief Creative Officer, and Emily Fulford, who is the head of production. Thank you both for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So this is great. First of all, you both have a background in broadcasting.
Yep, that's right. We've both been broadcasters on and off for about 20 years. I don't think it can ever be off. I was on and off at CJME pre-Bell Media in Ottawa before I moved to Saskatchewan, and then I was moving here. And then Emily was at Rogers for many, many years before we moved into U.S. syndication, but we produced right out of here.
Yeah, good. Emily, you as well.
Yeah.
In fact, you were a radio person at one time, right?
Yeah. For a little while, I was at GX94. It's harder than it sounds.
Well, it's great to have you both here, and this is a cool concept and a cool topic. Let's talk about the idea for the show. Where did the idea for the show come from?
Well, the idea came about just from my years, well, both of our years as broadcasters, because we did a lot of sports. And one of the things that we found is there's 2 types of broadcasters. You tend to get either former athletes, and there's obviously a limited amount of time that you can have on the sidelines. And then you have, traditional broadcasters that don't necessarily have a background in sports. And so that doesn't necessarily give you the sort of background. That and social media and Twitter sometimes being the wild west that it can be. Everybody has an opinion, even if they're sitting on their couch. And that's not a bad thing. It's good to have opinions. But Emily and I were sitting around one day, and we were like, well, you know what? Everybody has an opinion. It would be kind of fun if we took the idea of everybody that thinks that they can do it and put them in a position where they have to do it and see how well they do. But instead of kind of doing it as a, for lack of a better term, a negative type freak show, we thought we would do it as a Discovery Channel type show where Emily and I are both provincial level athletes in our own respective sports. We sometimes get co-hosts like Carolyn Waldo, Olympian and broadcaster for many, many years, and others. And then we basically have them go and learn another sport that they know absolutely nothing about, and we make arrangements with, CFL teams and the NCAA, and we travel all over North America, and they get either a couple of hours or a couple of days, and we have a sports doctor that follows along and says, this is what you can run into. And we basically do a new episode with a new team and a new sport every week.
So on that note, we're chatting today with Cory Carlick and Emily Fulford. You both, you talked about competed at a fairly high level with regard to sports. What were your sports? Emily, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a goalie. And
you're a hockey goalie.
Yeah, I was a hockey goalie, and I did that for about 15 years, too competitively. And that was prior to women's hockey being in the Olympics.
Right.
So it's a lot different now.
Right.
But that was something else. And I got to train with Rick Hines, who was with the St. Louis Blues.
Oh, yeah.
And Dan Tessier, who was with the the Ottawa 67s as captain at the time, and now he's a police officer.
Yeah, good stuff. And Cory?
With me, it was Dragon Boat. I'd raced competitively in Dragon Boat out east for years and years and years, and I'd done provincials. And now, of course, since moving to Saskatchewan, now we're both racing Dragon Boat again with the Prairie Dragons.
Yeah. Okay. So I love this concept. The concept is, and I'm going to summarize what you just explained to us, Cory, is you take people like yourselves who have competed at a level, and in your cases at a provincial level and on a national level in sport, but then inject you into, whether it's Olympics, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, a professional level career sport where you receive a little bit of coaching, a little bit of training. Is that right?
Wherever possible, we are actually given the same training that the athletes are. So, for example, when we did stuff in Ottawa with the Red Blacks, we were given, in a lot of cases, the exact same conditioning to show the level of failure. Like, not like failure, but just heart rate failure.
Right.
The conditioning is different. Regardless, even not necessarily at the level of the actual sport itself, but just the difference. You're going to work different muscles. You're going to have different cardio. You're going to use different muscles and do things in different ways, even if you're a national athlete in another sport.
Right. Go Nitro is syndicated. It's been picked up. Talk to us a little bit about that journey.
Well, we were already working on the show, and then basically COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that was an opportunity, and we decided to call some U.S. stations, just the stations themselves, and see if that was a possible open door, just on a whim, just because during COVID, I mean, it was either that or binge watch Stargate. So, yeah. So, the first station that we got was WBBJ in Tennessee, and basically it kept growing from there. And one of the reasons why it was so attractive was because they had a lot of canceled programming. They were desperate for programming. The reason why it stayed and it grew was because as former broadcasters, we knew how to format the files properly. So they were happy with the fact that when we sent them something, they could just put it in and it would work.
Wow.
And so it grew rapidly because of that.
And I mean, if you're going to be syndicated, NBC, I'm going to guess that's who you would probably want.
Yeah, and you know what? It came really quickly. The national system is a little different than here. There used to be syndication in Canada years ago, as I'm sure you know, and then they kind of stopped it, right? Because we're a smaller market. We have like about 40 million people as opposed to 400. So a lot of those stations, without it boring the listeners, became O&Os. They're not franchises, so to speak, anymore. Whereas in the United States, they do. But there are still networks on top of that also deal with syndicated programming. So once we started running, NBC came knocking, which I just about fell off the floor. So we just finished a run with NBC Sports, and then the big NBC we just signed a deal with them. So they're going to start running it. They're going to do a gradual rollout on all their stations on NBC, but we're supposed to start running in Dallas on their next week, and then I guess New York and LA after that. So it's a full NBC deal.
Did you shop Go Nitro in Canada? Did you try and get some momentum in our country?
Yes, it's interesting. It was. I was surprised at how. I mean, we had some. I mean, for example, SaskTel is very supportive. So SaskTel has been running the show for a long time. SaskTel has been really fantastic with us. And those that have access, I think it's channel 500 here in Regina, the Fox East feed does come into Canada. But interestingly enough, we found that we reached a critical mass a lot more quickly in the United States than here. We had we'll say it was a lot more difficult to sell, I would say, in Canada. We do have a few stations, and it was going to run on one of the major networks here, but there were a lot of personnel changes. Yeah, there were a lot of changes. So yeah,
I would suggest you've done okay though, given the fact that you've been able to connect with NBC.
Well, we have 104 million viewers now, so that's pretty good.
Yeah,
we just got our ratings in. We're doing pretty all right.
Okay, we're going to take a break. I want to come back. I want to talk about some of the specific experiences. You were down with a major league ball team. You've been involved with football, so I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about if there's room for adaptations to this. Right, getting pro athletes to try other sports. Getting not necessarily people that would be considered athletic, but just everyday people. Is that something that we could explore? So we'll come back. We're chatting today with Cory Carlick and Emily Fulford, both involved with Go Nitro, a Saskatchewan-based television show picked up for national syndication. 60, how many episodes now?
I think we're up to about 65, and then we have we're currently slated for a 216 episode run.
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, this is cool. Okay, we're going to dig back into this. And then after that, at 11:30, I'm going to open up the phone lines. If you could take an everyday average person, pluck them from the street of small town Saskatchewan, and put them in a professional sporting event, which one would you do? It would give you the contrast of how good these athletes are in some of these events. So we'll open up the phone lines for that. More with Cory and Emily when we come back on 650 CKOM and 980 CJME. Welcome back. I'm Evan Bray, having a good chat today with Cory Carlick and Emily Fulford. They are both involved in the production of this Saskatchewan-based TV show called Go Nitro. It's received national syndication through NBC, and essentially it brings, for lack of a better term, everyday athletes into the fray to work with, play with, compete with professional athletes. You get a little bit of training, you get the same sort of coaching, and then you get a chance to see what you're up against. So let's talk about a couple of examples. Cory, I'll start with you. We just get Cory's mic. Yeah, good. Let's start with examples. What are some of the episodes that you've been able to do?
Some of the episodes that we've done so far, we'll focus on Sask in a minute, but some of the big ones that we've been able to do, we did a really nice one with the basketball team with the NCAA, with the Syracuse Orange, so that was a big one. We've also done...
let's pause there. Absolutely. What did you do? So you went down with Syracuse,
yep,
and you did some training, and then did you get to actually play in a scrimmage?
Yes, that's exactly what we did.
And how did that go?
It actually went better than I think all of us expected. We went down, we were down there. This is Emily was actually co-hosting that episode, so she actually got to train with Brittany Sykes and Alexis Peterson, and we shot that about a day before they were both drafted in the WNBA.
Wow.
And Brittany is still playing for the Washington Mystics, I think.
Yeah.
Em, you should probably take this one.
Oh, yeah, that was an awesome experience. And I had always played basketball in gym class in high school, and it was fun, but I didn't really understand the rules. I didn't know how to play properly. Nobody could ever teach me how to do a layup. So I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't watch it. I fell in love with basketball after that. I started watching it all the time. I watched the Toronto Raptors when they won. So, it really got me into it to get out there and learn. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Okay, so a couple of you recently did one with a major league ball team.
We're actually about to go. We actually set something up with the Chicago White Sox. I'm tripping on my words here. The Chicago White Sox. We're actually going down to film a couple of episodes with them. Hopefully in the new year. That's all done and done. And there's a couple of other big NHL teams that we're going to be going down and doing pretty soon. And here in Saskatchewan, we've done a lot, too. We've already done one with the Saskatchewan Rush with Jeff Shatler just before he moved on, and the Rattlers. And I think the only professional sports team we haven't done yet, I don't think we've done anything with the Pats yet, and we haven't done anything with the Riders yet. So we'll see.
So is there room to expand? We're talking about Go Nitro, which is a Saskatchewan-based television show where essentially you take people who have some athletic ability, you put them in a professional setting, you give them some coaching, some training, and then you compete with that team, whether it's a major league team, could be a CFL team. Is there room to expand this to just an everyday person? Like, you both have some provincial level athletic ability and experience, but let's just pluck someone from the Cornwall Center or the Midtown Plaza and have them, like, is that a possibility, and throw them on a PGA golf course?
Yes. In fact, that's actually, we've done it a little bit in a limited way, and we're actually planning on doing more of that, because a lot of the time we'll get guest co-hosts on the show.
Right.
And the idea of the show is to kind of get people in it. So one of the things that we actually have been planning on doing is exactly that. So we want people emailing us or calling us or even the radio show and say, hey, we would love to do a show like this, because we don't do it in a way that makes people look or feel stupid.
Right. It's not to embarrass or shame, but I think it does a couple of things. Number one, it gives people a true appreciation for the amount of work and effort that goes into becoming a professional athlete.
That's right.
And number two, it entertains people, right? Like, it's funny to watch this stuff. I referred to this off air. We were talking about, I don't know if it was actually the actual Bill Murray, but a tweet by someone named Bill Murray, it's been credited to him, went out in 2016 saying every Olympic event should include one average person competing, just for reference. Could you imagine a 100-meter, run at the Olympics with 6 Olympic athletes, and then George from, Belcaires, Saskatchewan? Like, wouldn't that be just give you the context of how good these people are?
And there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. Now, that being said, if you put in the time, you can actually get to the point where, not fairly close, but if you put in the time, you can get to the point where you can do fairly
show some
decently.
Results. Yeah.
Well, here's a good example. I mean, I'm a runner. I'm a pretty decent runner. I enjoy running. And a colleague of ours, he was a former, Dan Tessier, who Emily trained with. He was with the Ottawa 67s, basically is the Eastern Conference, so OHL, the other side of the WHL, like CHL, and he's now a police officer. And I think it was the episode that we shot, the hockey episode, and between takes I did a little sprint with Dan, and I was a pretty decent runner, and he was faster than probably almost everybody else in the force, and they're fast.
Yeah.
But you would know, you were the chief.
No, I wasn't ever known for speed though.
Well,
you're not getting me in a race, Cory.
No, but still, I mean, you have to finish it 2.4 kilometers or whatever it is. So everybody's pretty good. But Dan, he just so unbelievably fast. As soon as the gun went, so to speak, he was a good 30-40% ahead of me, and I'm pretty fast. So it just goes to show.
We're getting short on time here. We're going to wrap up. So where can people go very quickly in the last 30 seconds to find Go Nitro, and how much longer are we going to be blessed with this show?
Oh, we don't plan on stopping. There's a lot of interesting sports and different takes that you can do on this. You can see it on Fox Rochester, the Fox East feed on Access, and of course SaskTel, who's our main sponsor here in Saskatchewan. They're putting it on there on demand. That's on Max TV 24/7. All of the Saskatchewan-based episodes are on there.
You can see it for free on GoNitro.tv as well. All the episodes are free. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Emma.
No, that's good, because the non-Saskatchewan ones that we did before are on there.
Okay, GoNitro.TV. You can check them out there. This has been a great talk. Congratulations on your success, you two. I look forward to watching it. I'm not throwing my hand up to volunteer, but I will gladly watch some of the fun that unfolds in these episodes. Thank you both. We're talking today with Cory Carlick and Emily Fulford, a couple of the team, the creative minds between Go Nitro, great Saskatchewan-based TV show, picked up for national syndication, doing very well and showing no signs of stopping. So we're going to keep the conversation going now with you, and I would love to hear from you after the break. If you could take an average person and put them into any sport professionally and watch them compete with the professionals, what sport would it be? Phone lines, text lines are open for you next on 980 CJME and 650 CKOM. Well, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. Evan Bray, following the NHL playoffs. Boston, big win over Florida last night, 5-1. No scoring in the first period. Matthew Tkachuk finally scores for Florida in the second, and then after that, 5 unanswered goals by Boston. Oof. I don't know if that's an indication. I would have thought that might be a tight series. Maybe it was just a bad game for Florida. Boston riding the momentum of their series against Toronto. Maybe they were still in the groove, and Florida needs to get back. But, boy, last night Boston looked strong, especially in the last part of the game. Tonight on deck, Hurricanes and Rangers. Rangers are up 1-0 in that series. Avalanche and the Stars have game 1. And tomorrow night, of course, the first big one for the Battle of Canada, Oilers and Vancouver Canucks. So it'll be a good series there. All right, this is a fun conversation. I love the interview we just got to do with Cory Carlick and Emily Fulford. They are both involved in Go Nitro. It's a great TV, Saskatchewan-based TV show, picked up for national syndication by NBC. And basically what they do is they take people who have done something in their life in terms of athletics, but not at a professional level. So both Cory and Emily competed. Cory was a dragon boater. Emily was a hockey player. They take them, everyday people, and they put them in a situation where they're actually competing with professionals. So they've been down to NCAA basketball teams. They've been to Major League Baseball teams. They were with the Rush. You heard that story. And this is a concept I would love to have a conversation about. So I'm throwing it out. If you could take any sport that you would love to see an average person attempt to compete at, you can pluck them off the street and put them on the ice, the course, the field, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a track and field meet, high jump competition. If you could pick one, what would it be? 1-877-332-8255. Oh, nice. Cameron in Regina right away says, I want Evan to compete in the luge. I'd probably do pretty good, you know. I got a lot of weight, and it's about weight going downhill. I mean, yeah, you got to be balanced and all of those types of things, but I've done some mean tobogganing in the day. 1-877-332-8255. Darren from Dalmany said the Hunter brothers would be great guest hosts. That's a good suggestion for the show Go Nitro. They would be good guest hosts. They're athletic. They're TV ready. They're Saskatchewan boys. We'll have to pass that along to Cory and Emily to consider that for upcoming episodes of Go Nitro. All right. So the question is, what sport would you most like to see an average person attempt to compete with the professionals? 1-877-332-8255. The guy who I look to guest host this show, if I take some time off, Taylor McPherson, has talked about this in the newsroom, and I wanted to get Taylor on the line this morning. Thanks for taking the call, Taylor.
Evan, I am so glad, my friend, that you are doing this topic. It has been near and dear to my heart for many years.
I heard you talking about this before this even came up as a concept for the show. So what is the rant you usually go on?
Well, it's usually about the Olympics, right? You watch for 5 minutes, and it all kind of looks the same because it's all pros. But I thought for the Olympics, they should make random people do it. Like, decide the athletes by random lottery of all citizens. If your name is drawn, you have to compete. Because think about it, like you're watching the pole vault, and you'll watch for like 5 minutes as these pros do it. But if you knew that none of them had ever done it before, you're not going to be able to look away.
It is going to be a wreck for sure. You know, what about the concept of having one average person there? And this goes back to what I referred to earlier as the Bill Murray tweet, because there was a tweet that went out and it was attributed to Bill Murray that said every Olympic event should include one average person competing, just for reference, so we know, really, truly how good these athletes are. That would be funny.
Oh, you absolutely should. There should be kind of that point of reference. Like, before a Formula One race, have some guy in his souped-up Honda Civic just take a lap of the track so you can just see what the difference looks like. But to help you out here, Evan, I've got my top 5 list of sports where I'd rather watch amateurs than professionals.
Okay,
you want to hear it?
I do want to hear it.
You mentioned high jump. I mentioned pole vault. I thought pole vault would come in at number 5. Number 4 is the 10-meter dive. I don't know if you've ever been up to one of those boards. It is a lot higher than it looks. 10 meters is a long way. Number 3 is the moguls on skis. Those
good point. That's a good one.
Man, It's like 45 degrees, and you're just flying down this bumpy track. Number 2 is not the luge, but it's close. It's the skeleton. And I had to look this up. But the skeleton is the one where you go head first on your belly, and I think that one's a little bit more exciting.
And you get a little thin helmet to throw on that looks like it came from the dollar store.
Totally. And number 1, the top spot, you knew it was going to be here, the ski jump, Evan.
That is a recipe for disaster. That's like some of the spills that used to be on the wide world of sports at the start.
You say disaster, I say must-see TV.
You say entertainment at its finest.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for sharing your list, Taylor. I love it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Evan.
All right, Taylor. 1-877-332-8255. If you could pick an everyday person and drop them into competing with professional athletes, who would it be? I'm not talking about who would the person be. What would the sport be? 1-877-332-8255. We posted this on Facebook last night, and we got one here from Elizabeth that said, I would never do this, but I would love to see the average person try diving. This is what Taylor was just talking about. My daughter is in a competitive diving group, and there's no way the average person could do what she does, and she's 11. So you can imagine Olympic-level diving. This is the thing, right, with sports, is we all sit back and watch from the comfort of our home, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, whatever it is, and we yell at the screen. I love golf, by the way. I mean, I've criticized Tiger. Who am I to criticize Tiger? Come on, Tiger. You got to make those shots. Meanwhile, you put Evan Bray out there. Not looking good. Text line today, I've got Al here who said, when it comes to golf, I remember reading that the biggest gap between amateur and professional sports is in golf. Maybe not the most exciting answer, Al says, but I think the difference between us and pro golfers is bigger than any other sport. Well, you know, if you take the average person, throw them on the PGA Tour and see how they would fare, I'm going to guess it would make for some good TV. 1-877-332-8255. Sean from Poulins says, I would love to see the average Joe who claims that NASCAR isn't a sport race against one of the drivers on a hot summer day. I think that happens actually on Louvain Drive in the middle of the night. We used to get complaints all the time about people racing up and down Louvain. Well, Gord from Saskatoon has decided he's not only going to tell us the sport, but who he would like to compete. He says he would like to see someone compete in the UFC. He's got a name attached. It's a politician. It's a federal politician. A fairly well-known federal politician. 1-877-332-8255. So on the heels of the talk that we had with Cory, Carlick, and Emily Fulford, who are co-creators and some of the masterminds behind the production of Go Nitro, a Saskatchewan-based TV show that has absolutely taken off. They've got 65 episodes done. You can check it out on gonitro.tv, or you can check it where you watch this syndicated show. They basically take everyday people, granted, who have some level of athletic ability. They give them a little bit of training and coaching, and then they let them compete with professional athletes. And so that's why we're throwing it out to you, saying, which sport would it be that you would most like to see an average person attempt to compete at just because it looks easy as a pro? Got a text here that says, one of these three, bull riding, being a rodeo clown, or NASCAR. That's the second vote for NASCAR that we've had. Paul from Saskatoon says, you got to think rugby would be a tough one. Don't let them do the sport. Apparently everyone knows how to referee better from their couch. Make them officiate. I like that text. 1-877-332-8255. How about sumo wrestling? Professional ballroom dancing. There's some good ones coming in here. 1-877-332-8255. All right, we'll take a break. Continue to brainstorm. If you got something you would like to add to this, if you would like to take an everyday average person, drop them into the competition of a professional sport, what would it be? Let us know. You're listening to 980 CJME and 650 CKOM. Well, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. If you are just tuning in, we had a great chat earlier with Cory, Carlick, and Emily Fulford, both part of the production team for Go Nitro. Have you caught any of these episodes? 65 have been produced so far, and you can get them on a few different ways. If you're part of SaskTel, you can watch them on SaskTel Max. You can actually go to gonitro.tv and check them out there as well. Or you can find it on some of the U.S. channels because they have been syndicated through NBC. And so essentially the premise of the show is they take, for lack of a better term, everyday people, and they put them in competition with pro athletes. Yeah, they receive a little bit of coaching and a little bit of training. But, I mean, for the most part, these are just people who maybe have done some sports or some athletics in their life, but they're far from professionals. And they drop them on a NCAA court. Or they throw them on the football field. Or they're part of a Major League Baseball team. So for the couch clickers that are sitting back, and I've done this, we all do it. You're watching a sport and you're like, come on, you guys, you got to be better than that. You got to get that pass. You got to make that shot. You got to hit that ball. Let's see how easy it is for the everyday Joe to compete. So we threw it out to you. We said, hey, if you could do this, if you could pick a sport that you would like to see an everyday, ordinary person out there competing, what would it be? 1-877-332-8255. Kevin from Assiniboia said, I would love to see the good drivers taken from Ring Road in Regina and put in a NASCAR race. I think it would be actually quite funny to see how many times they would be lapped. Tom from Dundurn. Tom, I am actually reading this text, and I had to read it twice to make sure I read it correctly. I got to watch, Tom says, Mark Loshak, who does the morning show on CKOM in Saskatoon. I got to watch Mark Loshak do the water ski jump in Saskatoon. I'm going to have to ask Shaq about that one. I didn't know he did that. Sheldon texted in ballet dancing. All right. Hayden from Yorkton, my top 3 ideas. Number 1, soccer. 2, team handball. And number 3, wrestling. And I mean Greco-Roman, not WWE. How about Dave from Regina? Darts. Actually, we got 2 here. We got another one saying, put an everyday person in a professional dart tournament, a ping pong tournament, even a foosball tournament. It would be hilarious to watch. You know, back to the Bill Murray tweet that went out a couple of years ago. And to be honest, I'm not sure it was Bill Murray, the actual Bill Murray who said this, but it came from a Twitter account of a Bill Murray that said, every Olympic event should include one average person competing, just for reference. Because would it not be good reference as to how good these athletes are? 1-877-332-8255. Thanks, everybody, for weighing in on that. Fun little bit of a chat there. And again, don't forget to check out the show. If you haven't yet, Go Nitro. Great show. And again, you can just check it out online, gonitro.tv. The Food, Fuel, and Fertilizer Summit continues day 2 today in the city of Regina. Premier Scott Moe is there. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Former Premier Brad Wall. CEO of Cameco, Tim Getzel, one of the speakers there. In fact, Tim Getzel joins us tomorrow on the show, and we'll chat a little bit about what was discussed and the productivity involved at the Food, Fuel, and Fertilizer Summit, and, of course, some of the other things that are going on in the Cameco world. Busy organization these days as well. Well, if you missed the conversation first thing this morning, we're going to replay a little bit of it coming up here. We had a great conversation with Ken Coates. Ken is Professor Emeritus from the University of Saskatchewan, current professor at Yukon University. And we wanted to weigh in on the protests that are happening across Canada and the United States at a lot of universities. These protests often start peaceful, but are pro-Palestine protests that sometimes take on a bit of an angry tone. They become an anti-Israel protest. They involve full-time professional activists and protesters, some of which who actually get paid to be there. And they not only walk the line, they stomp on the line. They will commit criminal acts. They spew hatred. They threaten. They intimidate. They block roads. There's all kinds of problems. And so Ken has a really good take on this and a good understanding about the balance that needs to exist about the freedom of speech and the right for people to peacefully, lawfully protest, and what we are seeing in Canada, which has him very concerned. So if you missed the conversation first thing this morning, we are going to revisit that coming up just after 12, right here on 980 CJME and 650 CKOM.